Hello and welcome back to Enrichment's virtual art room. My name's Miss Hannah and today we are going to be talking about one of my favorite craft supplies ever to use in an art room, the crayon. Now some of you might think that crayons are kind of childish and that after grade school it's kind of uncool to use them, but crayons are an amazing thing to use throughout your art career. And they're so versatile, you can do so many things with them. So today I'm going to go through 4 of those with you. But first let's get a little bit of history, a little bit of background, because it's great to appreciate crayons. But let's appreciate where they come from too. So crayon derives from a French word, and I'm going to butcher it. I do not speak French. Cray? But the first use of a crayon-like thing was during the Roman Empire, and that's so long ago. What they did, they got beeswax and suspended pigment in it. So if you remember from last week when we were making paint, pigment is something that gives color to another thing. It could be food coloring, you could grind up rocks to make it, and that's kind of what they did. But they suspended that pigment in beeswax and then painted it on walls. Then after treating it with heat, I think most likely some torches, because they weren't going with a blow dryer on those things. But after treating it with heat, it adhered to the wall and became permanent. From there, it wasn't until around the Renaissance, when Leonardo da Vinci was working, that anything else changed. During the Renaissance, they came up with Conti crayons. So these are examples of Conti crayons. So we have a brown, a white, and a black. And these were made by suspending charcoal in oil, then pressing it down in a mold. Then we got a nice little utensil to draw and write with. From there, they made oil pastels, which originated in France, where instead of using charcoal, they decided to experiment with some other pigments and different oils. So oil pastels are actually really soft, where the Conti crayons are really hard. From there, it wasn't until 1828 that they made anything crayon-like, where they suspended pigment in a softer wax. But in 1903, a company perfected this. They were originally called Binney & Smith. Now they started their product, producing it, in June of 1903, and after a little while they decided to rename, because Binney & Smith as a company didn't exactly flow very well. And so they renamed to Crayola. So that's kind of a brief history of crayons. It brings you up to date. So our first project, we're going to start out with kind of a homage to the bee. We are going to be doing a wax resist. So because crayons are made with wax, it means that they repel water or resist it. That could give a really cool effect in art. So I have started kind of a base sketch of what I want, paying homage to the bee. We have a bee sitting on a flower in front of a meadow with a sky full of clouds. And you say, full of clouds? There's nothing there. Well, there is, actually. We're going to use that wax resist principle to bring them out. So I have my white crayon, and I'm going to color on my paper where I want my clouds to be. It's kind of hard to see, so you kind of have to go to the side, look a little bit, just making sure that you're getting a lot of coverage. And when you do this, you want to press a little harder so that it all covers, or else you're going to have little spots where the watercolor will soak through the oil, or wax I should say. So from there, that's my sneak peek there, we are going to get our watercolor, our tub of water. And it's always nice to have a paper towel when you do work with watercolors. We're going to get our brush wet. We're going to wet our blue, get it all soupy. Get that pigment on there. And then we're going to brush over. And you can see right here and right up here where the watercolor is kind of coming up off the page. It's where we put our white crayon, and because it's made of wax, it resists, and now you have a sky full of clouds. So we're going to keep going on with that, filling things up. I'll make my green meadow. You can see I put some flowers in the meadow just to make it have a little bit more. But you want to be careful when you're using watercolor. If you butt up a wet watercolor with another wet watercolor, they will mix, and that can get a little frustrating. And then you can also see with the flower, when I held it up, there were some parts that I colored in, some parts that I didn't. So you can also use this watercolor for shading, this technique for shading. So where you want the really intense color, you color that in with the crayon, but then you go back over it with the watercolor, and it gives the rest of everything a good color. And this way you can do transparent things really well too. Alright, I'm gonna kind of dab a little bit so I can hold this up to show you. And if there's a spot where you're like, oh no, I don't want that color there, just dab. Dab and it'll go away, for the most part. Sometimes things are not reversible with watercolor. And then there you have it. A meadow with clouds. Pretty cool, right? So that was our first one. Our second one, we're using the same kind of resist idea, but we're doing a different little spin on it. So, have you ever in class or at school gotten those black pieces of paper where you scratch in and then there's a bunch of colors underneath of it and you can make cool designs? Well, you can make that at home, and it's super easy. This is one that I made. It says never stop trying new things, which is what we're all about here, right? So let me show you how to do this. You're going to want to take a piece of paper and color it with a bunch of crayon. I see how I covered it a lot and really heavy. You might accidentally break the crayon. That's okay, we can use it for our last project if you do that, but try not to. From there, we are going to need black acrylic paint, and the acrylic part is really important. My giant tub. I use a lot of it, so we're going to get our paintbrush, dry this off a little bit. We're going to take our black acrylic paint, get a good glob, and we're going to paint right over top of our crayon. You don't want it too thick, but you also don't want it too thin. So you want to be very careful about how much you're putting on. You have your own scratch off paper, and I will show you this one. Super easy to do. Take something hard, I'm using a key, and you just use that to scratch in your design. And these are really good things to use with patterns. So if you're trying to figure out how patterns work, or just kind of experimenting, these are really fun ways to do that. So you can see two little hearts, because we love trying new things. And I'm going to challenge, if you do that project, try and do something with a lot of pattern work, because it's really cool that you can scratch, but it's really cool if you scratch off a lot. So I would say, when you do this project, try to scratch off at least 50% of the black, but leave the other 50%, and you'll get some pretty cool results. So our next two projects, you will need a parent to help you with these. They require you to use hot things, and I don't want you to accidentally burn yourself, so you will need a parent with you for these two things. First, we are going to look at the melting aspect of crayons. Because they're made of wax, they have this really cool ability that they can melt and do cool things when they melt. So we're going to take advantage of that. We're going to make something we can use as a lamp or a sun catcher. So this is my example of a lamp. It looks kind of plain. You can kind of see some color going with it. But if I hold it up closer with the light underneath, look how cool. You're going to need to start with a surface you can iron on. My suggestion is you get an ironing board, and you will need a parent. I'm going to use this because my ironing board won't fit on my desk. We have our surface, we have our wax paper lined. Now we're going to take some parchment paper, and you want to fold this in half. And you want to make sure with our wax paper underneath, it is bigger than the parchment paper that we have. So then we are going to take our crayons and we're going to shred them. I use a pencil sharpener, so you put your crayon in the big slot, twist, 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 so you have nice shreds. So I already did this before because it can take a while. You're going to have to take the wrapper off, get it all done. So I have 3 colors I'm going to work with. I have blue, red, and purple. And with this project, you really want to focus on the colors you're using. You want to make sure you're using compatible colors, because if you use the complementary colors, like if I used green with the red, you're going to get some poopy brown colors. So I will attach a worksheet underneath in the description that gives some advice on different colors that you can mix together and kind of some color theory to help you not make the poopy colors if you don't want to. So after we have this all shredded, you're going to save this little nub. We'll use it for our last project. Set that aside. Put that in with the rest. And then you just have some fun spreading the shredded crayons onto here. And take some purple, pinch it here, here, and I have to make a tie-dye effect. And if you don't want to make a tie-dye, if you want to make a pattern, you can do that too. It's really up to you. But leave at least a 1/2 inch border around the edge so that when you do the iron and melt everything that it doesn't squish out. That's why we also have the wax paper underneath as an extra layer of protection. So we are almost to the point where I would like to be. Get it up there at the crease. Get a little bit more red up here. There we go. Perfect. So I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to fold that back over. So now we're like this. Now we have another piece of wax paper to put on top. Mine kind of ripped when I was getting it out, but that's fine. And we're going to take our iron that our parent is using that has been preheated. Take the iron over here and gently go over. You'll see it melts really fast. I'm going to set that down, pick this up and move it over a little bit. The wax paper acts as a protectant for not only your surface that you're working on, but for your iron as well. Because nothing is worse than going to iron your clothes and finding that there's a bunch of crayon on it. Nice and melty, a little too melty. Yeah. Pull off our top and let this sit for just a minute. That way we can get, when it's nice and hardened, you can already see how awesome the colors are. And from there, you can cut this into different shapes. Since this dried super quick, I'm going to cut off the sides, kind of stuck to the back paper. I'm going to cut off the sides. Leaving me with a nice sun catcher. Inversely, you could, like with the lamp I made, take this, and I was going to make this into a star. You can take popsicle sticks, cut them to the size, and glue them around the edges. For this, you go halfway through the popsicle stick. Just kind of measure it halfway and put a line of glue down there with a hot glue gun. So if you're going to do this, you still need your parent with you. Put a line of glue. And when you put the glue down initially, you put it down and you don't touch. You let it cool down, because even though it's not in the glue gun anymore, it is still super hot. I would suggest actually to do the popsicle stick, because if you can see with this one that we made, it comes off super easy. And by doing the popsicle stick around, it forms a barrier and seals everything in, so that if it falls, it won't break off and a bunch of crayon bits are everywhere. So use that. This side was the folded. Hang it up. You have a really cool stained glass look. So for our last project, we are going to be taking a look at all the gubbins, the little extra bits of crayon from all our projects. Say you broke one of the crayons, sharpen it down as far as you can still use them. You can use them and make them bigger. So for our last project, we are making our own crayons. You take all those extra crayons, put it in a cupcake tin, put those in the oven. Again, you'll need a parent for this. Bake them at 200 degrees for 20 to 30 minutes, or until everything has melted together. From there, you take them out, let them rest for about 5 minutes on an oven or a heat-safe surface. That way, they have a chance to cool down a little bit before you put them in the refrigerator. Leave them in there for 5 to 10 minutes until they're completely cooled. Pop them right out, and you have these awesome, fun tie-dye crayons that you can use. They are really good for little ones because they might not have the motor skills to hold a smaller crayon, but you can hold these in your hand really good. You can also make them any shape you want depending on the mold that you have. So those are 4 ways you can use crayons. They're all completely different, and you can still use them in an artistic way, especially this. This is really fun to do. That is all that I have for you. Please like, comment, subscribe, check out EN-RICH-MENT'S page on Facebook, and all the other videos that the enrichment instructors are putting out. We really do miss you guys. Hope we can see everybody soon, and if you're new to this whole enrichment thing, hope we can see you in person soon if you register for classes, which there should be information on when that will be happening on the Facebook page. So that is all that I have for you for now. Send in just like last week, send in the pictures to StarkEnrichmentArt@gmail.com. Again, it will be down in the description. I'd love to see what you're doing. Try this week to work on patterns. So patterns are repeating things. So if you have like star, zigzag, that's a pattern. Again, this little thing that I have hanging up on my door, it's a pattern with blobs. So I'd love to see your guys' pattern work and how you incorporate that with all these other projects. So that is all I have. Until next week, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep creating. Bye!